You ever noticed how a bunch of totally disconnected headlines can, actually tell one single powerful story? I mean, one day you're reading about a massive AI deal, the next it's some political drama in Washington, and then you see a story about young investors just throwing money at meme stocks. On the surface, it all seems completely random, right? But what if I told you they're all pieces of the exact same puzzle? Okay, let's get into it because what we're really seeing here is something big, a great recalibration of risk, and it's happening everywhere, from your cousin's stock app all the way up to the global stage.
And you know what's interesting? This whole story, it doesn't start in some fancy corporate boardroom or in the halls of government. Nope. It starts with regular people, especially young people, who are just looking around at the economy and realizing, wait a minute, the game has totally changed.
This quote right here, man, it just gets to the absolute heart of it. It's about that feeling. That old playbook for success, you know the one. Go to school, get a good job, buy a house, save for retirement. Well, for a lot of people, it just feels like it doesn't work anymore. It's like the ladder's been pulled up, and people are starting to respond in some really dramatic new ways. And believe it or not, this whole thing has a name. Financial nihilism. And look, this isn't just about reckless gambling. It's actually a pretty calculated response. It's this belief that, hey, if the slow and steady path is blocked off, then the only rational choice you have left is to swing for the fences. Go for those high-risk, high-reward bets. It is a really profound shift in how people are thinking about money. So what's driving this feeling? Well, it's fueled by some very real pressures. I mean, we're talking about a total pressure cooker of economic anxiety here. You've got soaring home prices that make owning a house feel like a fantasy. You've got crushing student loan debt. The white-collar job market, it's tightening up. And then there's this constant worry about whether safety nets like Social Security will even be there for us. So when you pile all that up, you can kind of see why making a wild, long-shot bet might feel more logical than just saving pennies. And look, the data backs this up in a pretty startling way. Get this, a recent survey found that a full 30% of Gen Z have completely given up on the idea of ever owning a home. Let that sink in. That's nearly 1 out of every 3 young adults who see a core part of the American dream as just impossible. I mean, this isn't just a number on a chart, that's a social earthquake. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. Because this go big or go home attitude, it's not just for young folks trading options from their bedrooms. It's happening at the very highest levels of the corporate world, too. We're seeing huge companies making these absolutely massive future-defining bets. And what's fascinating is we're seeing 2 completely different strategies play out. On one side, you've got a giant like Amazon actually pulling back. They're closing all their fresh grocery stores in the UK, kind of recalibrating. They're playing it safer. But then, on the complete other side, you have this absolutely monumental deal between NVIDIA and OpenAI. A massive, all-in bet on the future of AI. It's like the middle ground is just vanishing. And let's just pause for a second to really appreciate the scale of that all-in bet. $100 billion. I mean, it's an almost unfathomable amount of money. That signals a level of conviction and risk that is literally redefining the entire tech industry. They're not just hedging their bets here. They are going for total, absolute dominance. And hey, this isn't just happening in tech. Take a look at the pharmaceutical world. Eli Lilly is pouring $6.5 billion into a new facility for its experimental obesity pill. They are betting huge on the future of these GLP-1 drugs. So again, these aren't small, safe, incremental moves. These are tectonic shifts, massive wagers on what they think the world is going to look like in the next 5 to 10 years. Okay, so let's zoom out one more time because none of this is happening in a vacuum, right? The backdrop for all of these big bets is an increasingly volatile and unpredictable political scene in Washington. And believe me, it's only adding fuel to the fire. I mean, even the person steering the ship is sending up warning flares. When the Fed chair himself, Jerome Powell, comes out and says that stock prices look fairly highly valued, that is a huge signal of some underlying instability. It basically suggests the market might be running a little too hot, maybe disconnected from reality, and that forces everyone, from you to the biggest CEOs, to rethink their risk. And just to see how crazy it is, look at this timeline from a single 48-hour period. Boom, a sudden, massive new fee on H-1B visas that totally rocks the tech world. Then you get the Fed chair's warning about the stock market, and then a canceled meeting that pushes the government one step closer to a shutdown. I mean, any one of those things on its own creates uncertainty, but all of them together,
It creates this super volatile environment where trying to make a long-term, stable plan feels, well, pretty much impossible.
So, what happens when the world's biggest economy starts making these kinds of wild, unpredictable, high stakes moves? Well, the ripple effects are immediate and they go global. This is not just a US story.
And you can see the cause and effect playing out in real time all across the globe. The NVIDIA OpenAI deal, that's a corporate bet, and it sends Taiwan's stock market soaring to a record high on a huge wave of AI optimism. But at the exact same time, a political decision in the US about H-1B visas sends Indian tech stocks tumbling down. So you've got two different decisions, made in the US, creating two totally different shockwaves on the other side of the planet.
And if you're wondering why that shockwave fit India so hard, well, this chart right here explains everything. A staggering 71%, almost 3/4, of all H-1B visas issued this year went to Indian nationals. So that policy change wasn't just some broad, general action. No, it was like a highly targeted economic blow to a specific industry in a specific country, and it all came from one decision made in Washington.
Okay, so let's tie all of this together, right? We've got individuals who feel totally locked out of the old system. We have giant corporations making these huge diverging bets. And we have a government that's creating wave after wave of uncertainty. So, what are the new rules of the game here? And this really brings us to the core of it all, this great recalibration. The rational response to all this crazy uncertainty is no longer to just play it safe. From the very bottom of the economic ladder to the absolute top, everyone is making these high-stakes bets. They're all swinging for the fences because just getting a base hit doesn't feel like it's enough to win the game anymore. Which leads us to one last, really provocative question. In this new reality where all the old paths seem blocked and the future is just so uncertain, is the traditional conservative strategy of playing it safe actually the most dangerous move you can make? Maybe what we're calling nihilism is really just the new pragmatism. Definitely something to think about.